What's up, what's up? Let's see how we got going on here. What's up, Mule? What's up, Stray? Try and get y'all kind of lined up here. So, I think I'm going to open this other door. Get us a little bit of light going on, too. Okay. Made your first Kydex sheath? Heck yeah. I've been making a bunch of sheaths lately, trying to get ready for all these shows. One of the things you don't think about when you become a full-time knife maker is having to actually replace knives that you make. So whenever I go through and I sell a knife, I have to make another knife to replace that knife so that I have inventory. If you're eating dinner, you'll be there in a bit. I'm eating dinner right now. Got some broccoli, chicken, and rice. Healthy stuff. But I figured I would go ahead and turn the camera on. I've already got the big old chunk of steel in the forge heating up. That way we can skip some of the steps. So we're going to be forging a sword today, just in case y'all are wondering what's going on, if the title of this didn't make sense. I just want to get a little bit of light going on here. That way I'm at least lit up a little bit. Plus I need to make sure we light up where the power hammer is going to be going. Try and do this without making too much of a crazy thing going on here. Let's get the cables in front of the stand. There we go. So we got a big piece of steel in the forge tonight. I'm going to forge another one of those, kind of like the Samurai Challenge sword that I did. I'm going to forge some of that. It's throwing off some weird light right there. So we have that set up. We are going to be using the power hammer in this video, so I'm going to try and get tripods and lights set up to where I'm not fumbling all over myself here. Make it a little bit easier for us to transition between the power hammer and the anvil. So my goal for this, let's see, what do I have set up on here? Guess my tape measure is in the house. So the goal for this is to be about 30 inches long. So it was also nice meeting you too. My goal is for this to be about 30 inches long when it's all said and done. So we got a big thing to forge tonight, and it's going to be very helpful that we have the power hammer. All right. So we're going to start off. We're going to start off at the power hammer. I'll move you all over. And we're going to start working on the handle area a little bit. Let's shift y'all down. Get a little... Okay. So, y'all be able to see that in here. Let's move you down just a hair. Cool. I think this is going to be fun. I think y'all are going to enjoy this. Let me clear that off a little bit so that we don't have as much glare on that light. All right. Let's crank her on, and let's start using the power hammer. It helps if we don't have this on here. Already starting to pull that down. Most likely going to have to switch to using tongs for part of this. That first heat I was able to utilize the glove right there, but that still is going to start heating up pretty quick. So the cool thing about the power hammer is you got 30-pound head on this versus my 5-pound hammer. So it's going to move it real quick. I am going to move y'all over here real quick so that y'all can kind of see. I'm going to draw up here what we're going for. So this particular blade, let's bring you a little bit further forward here. I'm going to bring y'all up. So for this, it's going to be one that has kind of a gradual sweep up like this. It's going to come back nice and slim. So this is the goal for the overall shape of this. So we're going to have something like this that's about 30 inches long. My goal for this is to kind of have that quaking arch to it. And this is going to be the sword that we're doing. So we're doing 30 inches of this. Right now, we're forging the handle. We're going to get this little area right here set up and then go from there. Let's see here. Why doesn't the go back to the up position? Because this right here is set up for the weight just hangs out down here. All that motor is doing is lifting this up and then letting it fall back down again. It doesn't pull itself back up. That's not its default position. This is its default position, which is why I typically have this in between here, like this, just to keep it spaced out. But that's the default. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start doing this a little more. I'm going to grab a set of tongs and we're going to make this a little bit manageable for us. We're just going to keep thinning out that tang area. So I'm doing the handle first on this just to, well, I think it's going to be a lot easier to manage the handle material when we flip it over and do the front of this, because trying to get what's up, Steve? Trying to get a good grip on this front piece right here when it's so thin is a pain in the butt. It's gonna be a lot easier holding the handle than it is holding the tip up here. So I want to forge as much of the handle as I can right now, and then be able to turn it around and forge the front of it. And what we're using is 5160. And if you're wondering, that's what we're forging. What's up, Maxilla? A little shout out. What we're going to do is we're going to get the initial handle area forged out on the power hammer, and then we're going to switch, do a little bit of work on the anvil with the, of course, hammer and anvil, and then we'll start and flip it over to doing the blade area. Let's go ahead, grab this, and do a little bit more forging. And it's really going to start bringing all that down quite a bit right there. You know, I made these little tongs that I have right here specifically for working with this 5160. And this is the same steel that I made the last sword out of. It's the Willys Jeep leaf spring material that I absolutely love. So that's what we're using on this particular one, and I think it's going to be a good build. Now the nice thing about this is it saves me from having to hammer everything, but we've still got to do a lot of hammering on this. This doesn't have like specific dies or anything like that make it to where I can do a bunch of specialty stuff with it. It's primarily focused on moving the material a lot easier than using a hammer and anvil, and then I can fine tune everything by hammer and anvil. So I think it's going to be fun doing this, and I'm so happy that I get to use this to do all this initial stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get it going again. This time I'm going to flip the steel over and actually forge on the back side of it. So let's start by flattening this out a little bit. Okay, and then I'm just going to take the hammer and just kind of flatten it a little bit. What we have to do right now is we have to really start tapering this handle down, and I'll show you why. The back section of this, so when you're looking at the actual thing that we drew out here, the back section of this right here, this section down here is actually only going to be about 3/4 of an inch tall, and then it goes up to about a 1.25 inches up here. So it does have about a half an inch to almost 3/4 of an inch of a taper from where your, I guess you could say your plunge line is, almost your ricasso area goes back to the actual end of the handle. So we've got to taper that down quite a bit. What's up, JJ? And yeah, it's nice having the hammer going, that's for sure. All right. Get it going again. Starting to look good. So you see we're really starting to taper down right there. So the handle is going to go all the way up to about right here. So the next thing that we need to do is start coming in at this point and working our way back with it. Okay. There we go. So I think that doing this is going to be pretty interesting. I think that, you know, getting as much done with the power hammer before it starts getting real dark out here will be perfect. It's, you know, it's about, it's not like super dark, but I don't want to be out here doing the power hammering whenever, you know, it's like 9 o'clock at night, which is why we're starting at 6:30. My neighbors are literally like, I live in a neighborhood, so I mean there's my next door neighbor's house is like right there. So it's it gets kind of crazy if you're sitting here trying to power hammer and you're just inside a little shop here and trying to use the power hammer and be, you know, at least mindful of your neighbors. How you been? Good to have a hammer. I'm working. Yep. So Steve Jennings, who's actually in the comment section, he's the one that made this and brought it to me. Absolutely blessing of a friend right there. Oh, and one of the things that I did, I actually went and got myself a little tub of water to put my propane tank in. So I shouldn't have to worry about it getting too cold or anything like that. All right, this should be hot enough. We'll grab it, go ahead and continue foraging. So I could probably go with the handle about that long, but I need to bring it up a little bit further forward. So I'm going to have to forge where it steps down into the ricasso area, kind of right there. I want to bring it down to about right here, so about another 1.5 inches, and then we can kind of go from there. I like where it's tapered to right now, so we need to bring about from where my tongs are, the front of them back. And that's going to be our handle, and then the rest of that material is going to be the blade. It's going to be a big son of a gun. I'm going to be using all 18 inches of my forge, that's for sure. if you look at this, where we're at right now, the blade is already sticking out of the forge. So whenever we get to a point to where this will start drawing out, we'll be using the whole internal chamber plus about, I mean, you got to think, if we're going for about 30 inches, that is a foot longer than my 18-inch forge. Thank you, Patrick. I approve of what you said there. So this is definitely something that everybody needs to have. You know, being able to make your own stuff, being able to use tools to actually create something. Those are skills that everybody should have. The crazy thing is, people don't think about the fact that so many other countries, if they need something, they don't, or let's say something breaks, they don't just go out and buy another thing. They have to make the thing, or they have to fix the thing that's already there. Because, like, when it comes to America, if we need to go buy another $30 part, it's okay. $30 is something that we can handle a lot of times. But other countries, if they make the equivalent of an American dollar per day, it takes them 30 days to pay for a $30 part, 30 days of work. Yeah, they're not going to do that. They're going to make the thing, and we need to do that. What's up, Monkey? How you doing? Right now we're working on making this right here. This is the goal profile. Of course, it'll be slightly different than this when it's all said and done. This is just to give you an idea of what we're going for on here. I sold the last one that I made at Blade Show, Texas. So I want to go ahead and make another one because I absolutely loved that sword. And I just think it makes sense for me to go ahead and make another one. Right now we're working on the handle. We're using the power hammer as long as we can while it's still not super dark outside. Over. Okay, I think that's about the length that we want on the handle. So now what I got to do is just bring this down as narrow as I want it, and then go ahead and finish tapering it. And then what we'll do is we'll go through, and with the hammer and anvil, we'll start cleaning up the actual thickness of it. But what I'm going to do before we do that is we're going to come in with the power hammer, and we're going to step this down just a little bit more and make that as narrow as we want, that section right there. We're going to make that, bring it down, let's see, right there. We're going to pinch that just a little bit more right here with the power hammer, and then I'm going to go ahead and flip the steel around, and we're going to draw out this length right here and get a lot of that material moved with the power hammer before we actually stop using it. Because my goal is by about I would say about 7:30 here. Of course, I have no clue what time it actually is. So it's 7 o'clock here. My goal is about 7:30, 7:45 to not be using the power hammer and just be using hammer and anvil from that point. Can't wait to get mine done. Love what you got, your arsenal tools. Yeah, I absolutely appreciate having all these. I mean, Steve bringing this to me was absolutely worth it. Something that I want to make again, now that I have the power hammer, I want to do another one of these. So this is one that I did that has a crazy acid etch on it. What's up, Renato from Brazil? You see that acid etch that's on there? So this is a really big hog splitter that I did for the chopper challenge. I want to make another one of these right here. Two-handed hog splitter. And now that I have the power hammer, I think it'll be a lot easier to make one of these. That thing's about 1/4 of an inch thick on the spine. That thing is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I want to make another one of these. That's the goal. Now that I have a power hammer, I can do a lot of that stuff. All right, let's get this out of here. And there's our handle. So now, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten this out just a little bit. And we'll end up changing. There we go. Now I still have a lot of work to do this. So just by doing this doesn't mean, there we go, doesn't mean that it's absolutely done. So there's still a indentation all the way down the center of this. Because what it basically does is it turns the steel almost into an I-beam. So it flares out the top and bottom. That's still going to have to be smoothed out. And we're going to do that by hammer and anvil. But the profile is roughly where it needs to be handle-wise. So now we can go ahead and flip it over and put it back into the forge with the blade section. We can start forging that out. So what we'll end up doing is we'll go ahead and we will do the initial forging of the blade with the power hammer, and then we'll go ahead and do everything else by hand or hammer and anvil. And Miss Rivers, the one who's typing in the Rivers as the Rivers experience, how loud is this inside the house? So she's in the house. They got, the kids are in there, TVs are playing and all that stuff. I'm interested to know how loud this is inside the house. Because it doesn't really seem that loud in here. It's not quiet, but it doesn't seem that loud. Let's switch tongs. We're going to be using the actual blade tongs. What's up, Jason? It seems like this live stream is going to be pretty chill. Like there's not going to be 1.2 billion people on it like the ones have been in the past, but it's been a little while since I've live streamed. I say that. I haven't live streamed in one Saturday. we've live streamed all of them up to there. Tokenomics. What's the coolest tool you got in your workshop? This is the coolest tool I have in my workshop. This is my power hammer that was made by Steve Jennings, who's talking in the comment section here. That's the coolest tool that I have here. This is what we're working with right now to actually forge the initial profile of the sword that we're making. Again, if you're new to the live stream, we are working on this profile right here. It's going to be about 30 inches long. This is a power hammer. So basically, this piece right here that goes up and down in this is a 30-pound hammer, which is the primary hammer that I use right here is 5 pounds. Yeah, it's like Forged in Fire. So they have a power hammer. That's basically what this does. The motor lifts up the back section, lifts this thing up, and then rams it down, all 30 pounds. You're going to see it in action here as soon as the steel lights up or gets a little bit warmer. The only thing that I'm going to do right off the bat, though, so I'm going to go ahead and move y'all over here so where y'all can see the anvil. So right off the bat, what I need to do is I need to forge that front section that is going to be the tip down just a little bit by hand before we actually do that with the power hammer. So you're going to be able to see how long it is right now. So it's almost the entire length of my anvil as it is right here. But we need to come in and forge this front down. Make it a little bit easier when we start using the power hammer. If I can go ahead and pinch this a little bit so that I'm not creating an issue for myself down the road. Go back in the forge. And we're gonna end up taking that whole section that we have right now. We're gonna take that whole section down about 1/2 inch. It's 1/2 inch too tall right now. So as we go ahead and we use the power hammer, we're going to be taking that. Whenever you are forging like this, you got to think about the fact that whenever, right now, this whole entire front section is a big rectangle. So as I create this profile and as I forge that 1/2 inch in, and then as I forge this whole entire tip, all the steel that's in the rectangle right now has to go somewhere. So we're going to get a whole bunch of length out of that rectangle as we start coming through and pinching this all the way up. All that material's got to go somewhere, and it's going to automatically give us a whole bunch of length on there. So whenever you're going through and you're forging something like this, just remember that whenever you're trying to set things up, you got to think through how much material you're going to use and how much material is going to shift somewhere else. That's when you're trying to do your math to figure out how big of a knife you can get out of a piece of steel. Just imagine, just shift those little pieces around and you'll be able to actually see it. Imagine how much longer it would have taken me to forge that whole entire handle by hand. Ridiculous. Of course, a lot of people that see me forge by hand would probably think it wouldn't take me that long. Alright, so we should be able to start. Okay, and what I was talking about a second ago is right now we have this big section right here. We got to take about 1/2 inch out of that. That's going to give us a whole bunch of extra length. And then of course we're going to do that real long taper on there. And that's going to also give us extra length. But now we should be good to go ahead and start compressing that section down and pull it out. This here, Red Blaze, CKS, and Troy. 70 plus exhibitors, vast array of fantastic work. Nice. So I'll be at, let's move y'all up real quick. I'll be at Texas Select this next month. So it'll be April, so 6th and 7th is the actual show. I'll be there the 5th, 6th, and the 7th. But it's a Saturday, Sunday down by Austin. I guess it's kind of Austin, Houston-ish area. And I'll be exhibiting down there. So I'll have a table at that show. There's a lot of people that I know that are going to be down there. Of course, Jay Nielsen's going to be down there. They're going to have a whole bunch of the Forged and Fire people, like a huge amount of Forged and Fire people, champions, and people that have just been on the show. And then, of course, a whole bunch of other knife makers. And it's going to be a pretty cool show. So I'm excited about that one. That's the Texas Select show. So if y'all are in Texas and want to go to a really cool show, that's the one to go to. All right, let's go ahead and shift y'all back over to the power hammer. Let's see here. Let's do a little bit more work with it. Yeah, there's going to be a few people that have been on the podcast. So my hammer maker, Two Bastards Forge, he is going to actually be, he's one of the sponsors for the show, so he's going to be there. Chris Jones from the Knives Templar podcast, Joey Terrio from the Knives Templar podcast, and now he has a new podcast that he's doing with Don Watson, which was from the podcast, and Jason Tippey. And Jason Tippey is going to be down there for this show as well. All right, we're hot enough, so let's go ahead and start stretching this thing out. Oh, I love this thing. That makes my life so much easier. So we're going to be at the Texas Select Knife Show, and one of the things that, again, I was talking about earlier is having to think through some of this stuff with these shows has been a little bit of a new experience. So with a lot of the shows, whenever I was initially making knives, I would just make what I wanted to make, and if I made 2 knives in a month, it didn't matter because I was primarily a YouTuber that made knives. But if I only made a couple of knives, it wasn't that big of a deal. And I always had knives in excess because I kept a lot of them that I made. But whenever you're doing the show rotations and all that stuff, as you're selling the knives, you have to make sure you squeeze in some brisket. Yeah, I know. Whenever you are making the knives, or selling the knives, so you sell one, you got to make another one. You sell one, you got to make another one. You sell 10, you got to make 10, because you got to keep inventory up. And for me, having the website and my primary income being off of knife making, it's a must that you make knives to replace the knives that you sell. So having to think through stuff like that has been interesting. And I've done 2 shows in the last 2 weeks. So going through and selling stuff means you have to make more knives. And I've got a whole bunch of knives that I'm working on right now, a few Damascus builds and different things like that. Plus I'm working on the Shop Talk Tuesday builds and the stuff that we're working on with this and the Viking challenge, all that stuff. So there's a lot that I gotta mess with. So let's get you back over at the power hammer. And we're going to stretch this out just a little bit more. Maybe a lot bit more. We're getting a lot of length out of this now. I bet my neighbors right now are going, what the hell? The thing about this power hammer is that the noise itself isn't that much louder than my actual hammer and anvil. It's not that much louder. It's the type of noise that it is. So my hammer and anvil is more of a higher pitched noise. This is a very bassy noise. So whenever it hits, it shakes the ground and you feel it everywhere. So it's like someone driving through your neighborhood with some real loud bassy speakers in their vehicle. You hear them coming down the road, boom, 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 as they're going. That's what this does. So when it's hitting, it's going boom, 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 and it's getting a lot of noise that goes a farther distance than the hammer and anvil. And yeah, it's the air compression, correct. And it's one of those things where I'm trying my hardest to be respectful of the neighbors. So the cool thing is they're going to hear way less hammer noises because we just did about probably an hour's worth of work in 35 minutes. Probably more than an hour's worth. Probably about an hour and a half worth of work in about 30, 35 minutes. So not too bad. We'll go ahead and use it one more time, and then we'll go ahead and start using the hammer and anvil. Let's move y'all over there. All right. So that is the whole entire profile that we're going to be doing on the power hammer, and the rest of it is going to be hammer and anvil. So let's go ahead and put it back in the forge. We just did a lot of work, absolutely a ton of work with that. So I'll pull y'all over here. I have a horse mat underneath it right now, so that's what's actually underneath there. I've got a horse stall mat, and that is what's making it to where it's bearable as it is. Yeah, there you go. what Matt said. And then I'm also going to be doing a little bit more sound deadening with it here pretty soon. But let's just be real. I mean, it's a power hammer. No matter what I do, it's not going to be a quiet thing. And I've come to grips with that. me too, Steve. I love seeing it being put to work as well. So for you, Duck, I have the propane tank in a thing of water, plus I'm running the lowest amount of PSI possible on there to actually still have decent flames. So we shouldn't have to worry about switching out the bottle or anything like that during this. And yeah, just like Matt said, this thing is working real well. I absolutely love it. Go ahead and put my little spacer back in there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start cleaning up this blade profile. And the transition. All I did right there with those last couple of hammer blows was I shifted the spine to where it's back in line with the spine of this, and I created what's going to be my heel, or the transition from the handle into the ricasso. Because we still got to compress that handle area down just a little bit. Eric Rivers not make a tip. Yes, you did. And exactly what Doug said right there. So if the tank starts freezing at the bottom, because it works just like a can of compressed air, what you would use to clean a computer setup. If you do it too long, it freezes the bottom, and then it doesn't work as efficient. The propane doesn't come out at the correct PSI to be effective. Man, I'm so happy that it's cold outside right now. So it's supposed to be like in the 30s tonight, and I am super pumped for that. That's gonna make this whole entire thing a lot easier on me. That way it's not a billion degrees in here. It again. Shift this transition some more. Man, this is going to be cool. I'm so happy that I'm making another one of these. Now, one of the things to think about when you're forging, I've talked about this a lot, you're not trying to go through and keep everything beautiful in the process of forging it. It's perfectly fine to make this thing look ugly as hell in the process of getting the dimensions right at first, getting the profile right at first. You're going to go back and clean everything up after that. So it's not necessary for you to go through. You'll see some people who will spend so much time hammering down on the spine and the belly of the knife, so with the blade vertical, and then they go through and they come in and they try and clean up everything that they just done. Don't mess with that. You'll have steps where you do that. You can do a little bit of straightening, but unless you're going to end up with a cold shut because you're not planishing it back or flattening it back out, it's not necessary for you to go through and smooth it every single time you move the steel. Your goal is to move the steel in the area that needs to be moved to, and then you can go ahead and start cleaning everything up. Look at how wonky it is right now. It's not necessary to fix any of that. I think right now, let's see how long we are before we actually do anything else. This only goes out to 24 inches. So we're about 26 inches right now. Not too bad. 26 inches is the length that we're at, and we haven't started stretching anything out with straight pins or cross pins or anything like that. I don't know what's up there. Yeah, it just freezes. Do you have a 2-burner forge or a 1-burner forge, Doc? How much propane do I go through making this? I shouldn't even technically go through this bottle of propane, which is about $19 for the exchange on it. But yeah, I shouldn't even go through that forging this, especially now with the power hammer. Easier to see and stand out. That's true. You use a weed burner. There's a lot of people that you do different things like that. Now, are you using the ones that you get from like Lowe's? So some people will take and modify those and be able to use them for this. Okay, get this hot again. So I think on this next heat, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start drawing it out. Got your TRE shirt? Heck yeah. So we're going to switch to the old straight peen, cross peen. And we're going to start drawing this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come across it with the cross peen and start moving everything back in line. So instead of going through and forcing, so what you can kind of see here, you see these bumps that are on the outside, right along this outside and this outside edge. What happened is, as I was forging it, the edge on both top and bottom flared out like a mushroom. They mushroomed out. So instead of just pushing those back in with the regular flat hammer, I'm going to put those back in with the straight peen. And what that's going to do is, if you take and you forge those down, let me show you another knife that kind of gives you an example of this. So what I'm talking about here is, you see like on this one right here, where the top and the bottom are mushroomed out. Now, of course, this was on purpose. Instead of taking and trying to push those back in with the flat hammer, because what that does is, if you do this with the flat hammer, the steel moves everywhere. It goes out that way, this way, this way. What I want is to get length. So instead of pushing this back in with the flat hammer, I'm going to use the straight peen, and it's only going to force that steel to go one direction. Well, technically two. This way and that way. It's not going to go out that way. So I'm only going to get length out of it, not a bunch of width. I don't need width. If I needed length and width, I would use the flat or the rounding side. But because I'm trying to get length out of this, we're using the straight peen, this right here, to stretch it out when we're putting it back in. What's it making? Here, I'll show you what I'm making. So we're doing another one of these. So that guy right there. That's some fun making jewelry. Well, that's actually pretty cool. And yeah, it's a Quicken sword. They come to the 23rd, 24th, Wichita, Kansas. Nice. All right, see you later, splitting slices. Thanks for coming by. Thanks for hanging out. Turn our thing into a banana right here. Banana, that banana. So I went through and I did most of the blows for that time on this one side. You can see all the indentions right there. What'll happen is, whenever I come through and I forge this flat, it's going to again extend everything out that direction. But we still need to do a few more heats like this. And the goal is right now, the reason why we are forging how we're forging is we're trying to put everything back to the original blade thickness. So the thickness of the steel that we had. So whenever we are forging this section in, we want to get down to that thickness that we want, and we want to extend the blade while getting down to the thickness. So once we actually go through and do all this straight peening, we can then start hitting it with the flat hammer, clean everything up, and then we can flip over to the handle and start working on it. And getting that, doing the same thing to the tang area, where we pinch all of those mushroom pieces back into shape, and then we flatten it, and then we can go ahead and start getting the profile fine-tuned, making sure we have the right arch in it, things like that. I'm so happy that I get to make another one of these. I wanted one of these for a long time, and then I was like, you know, you got to sell stuff when you're at the shows because you got to make money. And I sold that one, and I want another one. Yeah, hey, and I saw the bracelet. That bracelet turned out absolutely badass. I loved that bracelet. 2 more in the works. What's up, Jeff? How you doing? So we're working on this right here. So that's the goal. Something in this kind of profile right here. That is the result that we are shooting for on this one. And of course, because we got to use the power hammer in this video, man, we got going quick on this thing. I'd have still been forging the handle out at this point. I think we should be able to get everything else corrected with the big hammer, the 5-pounder at this point. So we shouldn't need to do any more of the cross peen at this point. Switch over to the big old hammer and go from there. I dare you to recurve it? Dude, this would be ridiculous. Forging a sword. Nice. Yeah, this is gonna be cool. So this is like a Quaking inspired sword, and it's a cool profile. Again, if you haven't seen the actual profile yet, this is of course a smaller version of it, but that's the rough profile. Just kind of giving everybody an idea of the goal there. My son named the power hammer the Beast and drew a little beast around it. And it is absolutely a beast, so he was right. So once we get the blade flattened out, we can then go ahead, like I said, start working on the tang and getting that all lined up. So that matte rich spray painted pattern. EDC Quakins, Pickle Cutters did. Yeah, he's got some cool EDC Quakins, and so does Drew, is it Linegar? I think it's Drew Linegar. It's a younger dude on Instagram. Of course, he has a YouTube channel too. But yeah, Drew, he makes some really cool ones. He's got them on his Instagram that he posts. And I think it is Drew Linegar. Yes, that. Lillinger? Drew Lillinger? It's one of those things. You're probably right. I'm most likely wrong. So when it comes to the spray paint thing, remember whenever I did this one? So that is just splatter paint on it. And then whenever you etch it, everywhere where the paint was stays shiny. And then it just etches around it. Hold on. There you go. Ta-ta. Drew Wilson. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and flatten this thing out. I think we're going to have a decent thickness there. Now I haven't went through and cleaned up the overall profile just yet, because we are going to end up tapering this a little bit different. We're not going to clean that up just yet. I need to get the handle in line and the thickness that we want, and then we'll start messing with it and cleaning everything up. So now that I have the blade about 75% the way that I want it to be, we can go ahead and start working on the handle and getting that situated. Again, what we have right now on the handle, you see this different colored area that's right here? That is the actual thickness. You can see it kind of flares out right here and right there. The centerpiece is the actual thickness that we're going for, not what it is right now. So we need to take and pull all that stuff back into place, and we're going to do that with the straightening, with a straight key hammer. And by default, as we're doing this step, we'll probably get another inch out of the actual length, and we probably got another inch out of the blade just by doing what we were doing there. And when we start messing with the profile a little bit more, we'll gain just a little bit more length as we go. I think this is going to be just, I think it's going to be perfect. What's up, Randy? How you doing? Oh, you're in Bakersfield, huh? Good old Bakersfield. Oh, man. You know how nice it is to not feel exhausted at this point? That is so awesome. Just being able to feel like I do right now. We've been forging for this long and not feel like I've absolutely obliterated the old, well, I don't ever feel like I obliterated the elbow, but I do feel like I worked out. Well, I'm happy to have you here. What's up, Flash Panda? So if you're just now chiming in, we are working on basically a Quaking sword, a sword that's this profile right here. That's what we're forging out right now. It's a pretty big one. I have an absolute blast forging these bigger projects on the live stream. Already, get just a bigger forge and tool offcuts. Yep. But make sure you get the bigger forge and tool offcuts. Do not do Alabama Damascus. Don't do it. Don't do it. I got some offcuts from them, and they were horrible. D-lams all through them, and it's worth it to get the Baker's Forge stuff. It's absolutely way better for you. So I've got, I don't even know if y'all are gonna be able to see the patterns on this. These are ones that I'm about to get ready to heat treat. This is a ladder pattern, Damascus. Little, y'all haven't seen this profile yet. Let's see if y'all can see it against me here. Y'all haven't seen this profile. This is a new profile here. The bevels are going to come all the way up. That's going to be a real cool build. And then a new EDC profile right here. This one's in raindrop. You can kind of see the pattern in that. But yeah, those are both Damascus builds right there. I've already got the other ones out of the oven. They're already tempered. All right. Let's go ahead and start working on this. Go back in with the straight peen and start getting everything kind of in line. Back in the heat. So same thing that we did to the blade. We're just going through and getting all those high points back in line, and then we'll go ahead and start flattening it. Now when it comes to the handle, I am going to still have to compress the handle down just a little bit to get to the height that we want. It's still a little bit too tall as it sits. Starting on a Shield Monday. Yeah, guys, I cannot wait for y'all to see Steve's Viking Challenge build. It is absolutely sick. It's amazing. Y'all, God, it looks so good. Done 5 blades with it now. So with the Alabama Damascus, if you do their center cuts, it's fine. But if you do the offcuts, like what Duck was saying, those have a lot of D-lambs in them. 2 times offcuts they do, block and flat. Block ones are great for forging, into stuff. The flat ones are great for rain dropping or ladder pattern. Yep. But yeah, the little like pieces that they have left over after they cut things out and do all that stuff, those absolutely suck with the Alabama Damascus. I have done a few blades that are out of their center cuts that were okay. But as soon as you get anywhere near the outside of one of those billets that they make, that's all just scrap all the way around there. Handle plan for this, we're going to be doing a kind of the same style that I did on the other one. I really liked that material. Now, if I can get a long piece of like, what I'd really love is like a spalted, like pecan or some spalted wood. That would look really cool on this. But if I can't get that, then I'm going to go back with the same type of handle material that I used for the last one, which was the wheelbarrow handle material that I used. And absolutely love it. And thank you for that, Randy. Thank you for stuff. Has lots of D-lambs that you have to grind out as well. It's still mostly good material though. See, I've used some of that and I haven't had any issues with that. Now, of course, let's just be real. A lot of people have D-lambs on all kinds of stuff. I just have not had good luck with the Alabama Damascus. That's a personal thing. Okay. So now you have that pushed back in line for the most part. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to flatten it back out with the rounding hammer. Well, flatten it back out with the rounding hammer, and then I'm going to go through and clean it up. I figured you were talking about the offcuts, Doug. It's awesome. Too expensive, but the offcuts more great. And yeah, so the things that I've been seeing that I thought were kind of crazy was the people doing the kumais with the nitro V in the center. So whenever you're heat treating nitro V, you got to bring that up to like 1900 degrees. The melting point for copper is like 1930 or 50 degrees. So whenever you're heat treating that stuff, you can't do it in a forge. You're doing it in an oven. If your oven goes up slightly warmer, all the copper melts out of it before you can even quench it. So yeah, that stuff's a little crazy that they do. I kind of thought that was funny that they decided to use nitro V with the kumai. All right, let's flatten this out. Okay, now we have a pretty uniform thickness. I want to go through and get the profile cleaned up. So first thing that I'm going to have to do is come in and get this handle the right height that we want all the way down it. And get that profile cleaned up. And then we'll switch to the blade, get that profile cleaned up. But really at this point we're just going to be shifting the steel in just increments, not a whole bunch. I do want to see. Let's see how long it is right now. So right now we're at 28 inches. That is not too bad. Whenever we started out, we were right at about 21 inches. So we've gained about 7 inches of length. That's not too bad. So we'll start cleaning up that handle profile, getting it in line where we want it to be. Let's see here. No, she didn't ever say how loud it was. So they'll be putting aluminum in their stuff. Yeah, Matt was here whenever I was using it. He got to actually hang out in person. Now, of course, he helped me put it where it's at. It was nice having you here, Randy. What's up, Aaron? How you doing? For anybody just chiming in, again, we are making this guy right here, which is going to be pretty cool. Yeah, I ran in the house and asked her. And then next week we're going to be forging probably want to do another either a recurve buoy or like a harpoon kukri type thing, like a decent sized kukri with like maybe a 12 to 15 inch blade. I think that'd be pretty cool. I think we might do a kukri in the next one. Where in the world did I put my hammer? Oh, we're just setting my hammer down all over the place. All right. Hammer found. Hammer located. Won't panic. Start working on this tang. Okay, keep on tapering. I have the transition from the heel ricotta area. I have that where exactly I want it, so I don't really need to mess with that much. So take a big chunk of leaf spring and make it a cube. Make a bulletproof die, then shoot it for Shop Talk Tuesday, right? Should be cool in the end. Question: how you plan to sharpen it? Exactly what Duck said right there. So we will be forging bevels into it, but of course they will be still round. And then I'll bring the heel down a little bit. All we did at this point that we're at right now was do the preform, kind of like the rough profile of the blade. Taper that now. Go back in. Yeah. So we've only got probably another couple of heats in the handle just to get it nice and easy. Yeah, and I plan on forging the bevels in, and then we'll grind everything and get them nice and clean after that. But the best part about forging the bevels is it gets you a little bit of height out of the blade, and I need that height to get the heel exactly where I wanted. So going ahead and getting everything kind of set up right now. Now, of course, as I start forging in the bevels on this, or let's put it this way, the next phases, once I get the handle kind of roughly where I want it before we're at planishing steps, we're then going to take the arch that's in the blade right now out of it, and whenever I start forging in the bevels, it'll give us that arch back. Right now, I'm just trying to get the handle where I want it, taper-wise. Okay, I'm not super worried about getting it super straight at this point, but see how we have a nice taper throughout. I mean, it's not a huge taper. It's only about just over ½ an inch from here to there. You can't really see it that well, but you got to trust me on that. It will be at the actual ricasso area where 1 inch and 3/16, and at the actual end of it, we're at 3/4 of an inch. So, if I can actually, this is a lot of still to mess with there. But at the very end, we're at about 3/4 of an inch. And then down here, we're at about 1 inch and 3/16, right about there. The whole point is for it not to be a huge taper, but just a little bit. But we have the taper how I want it. It still is looking nice and straight, so now we can go through and get the blade how we want it. Start forging in our bevels, bring that heel down. Be looking good. Whew. Man, it's been a while since we've only had like 36 people watching a live stream. The funniest part was whenever I was live streaming at Blade Show on Saturday, the Blade Show Texas. Whenever I was talking to somebody, so whenever I had like my back to the camera and I was like talking to a person right here, we'd have like 120 people watching. And then as soon as I would turn and start talking to the camera, we'd go down to like 60. And then I would turn around and start talking to another person, we'd have like 120. And I'd turn around and look at the camera, 60. I don't know what it was with everybody wanting to see me talk to people. Swap out the old water bottle. So it was pretty funny watching that, the people go in and out like that. But we'll get the count back up again. I also don't know how much work Miss Rivers has been doing in there with the channel and messing with thumbnails or any of that stuff, because I think they're watching a movie. Viking Challenge is going really good. Of course, I haven't been working on it near as much as I need to be working on it, but it's looking good. I've got the handle kind of laid out how I want it, and I've still got to do plenty of work to it, but I'm trying to get so much stuff done so that I can work on it. And it'll become a priority next week. This week, I was just getting back into the swing of things because I haven't had to deal with a show or anything like that. You know, I was at a show last weekend, and it's still got plenty of stuff that I got to do and mess with on it. You got Steve, Mr. I'm pretty much almost done, and now I'm gonna make a shield. Your axe is cube shaped. My axe is looking kind of like a hammer. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so let's take this, take that arch that we have in it right there, take that arch out of it. We're just going to lay it on the anvil and hammer across the actual cutting edge. Now, we don't have any more arch to the spine. So now when we start drawing out those bevels, it will naturally hook that tip back up. Alright. We'll heat it back up and we'll start drawing those bevels out. Now, as we start doing the bevels, what we're going to end up doing is using the round side of our rounding hammer. So flat side, round side. And what we're going to do is we're going to come in at about the halfway mark of the bevels, and we're going to forge them in from halfway down. So some idea like this, we're going to forge right at this halfway point. So if we drew a line right here, we're going to start forging here and pulling them down with the round side, and then we're going to come in with the flat side and smooth it all out. But that way we can pinch that steel and move it a lot faster. Forge things, some new tools, materials. There's a lot of ways that you can actually get into doing this craft without spending a whole lot of money. Check out Facebook Marketplace. You can get an anvil from Harbor Freight. You can get hammers from Harbor Freight and start out that way. I do have a video that's going to be coming out in a couple of weeks, turning a couple of Harbor Freight hammers into, one of them is going to be a rounding hammer, not as crazy as this, but I'm going to do one rounding hammer and I'm going to do one that is a cross peen, straight peen, because if you have a rounding hammer and you have one of these, you can pretty much do whatever you need. But I'm going to show how to take two Harbor Freight hammers, and I'm going to make these hammers with that. And then, yeah, the Doyle anvil from Harbor Freight, absolutely awesome anvil. So I'm going to show you how to do the hammers. So that way you can have a very inexpensive amount. Plus, there's people who will show you how to take a couple of bricks and some coals and make a coal forge with like a vacuum cleaner or a hair dryer. So you can make a coal forge without having to have propane and all this stuff if you want to go that route. Just look up cheap coal forge on YouTube or DIY coal forge, and you're easily be able to do it in your backyard. Make a little forge, call it done. You can get into this for pretty cheap. Come in one side, straighten it up a little bit, so it goes back in the forge. As of right now, we've only taken about halfway. You can see where we start hitting those round ones, halfway down. We're going to come in from the other side, do that same thing, and then we'll go ahead and probably do that. We're probably going to do a total of 2 times each side with the rounding hammer, with the round side of it, and then we'll switch and use the flat side from that point forward. So I have Harbor Freight hamburgers. The backyard coal forges. So that is actually a perfect video for you to watch, or perfect videos for you to watch to see backyard coal forges. Currently getting woodworking tools. The cool thing is a lot of woodworking tools transition into knife making tools very easily. So I had a whole bunch of woodworking tools whenever I got into knife making, and it made my knife making a lot easier. Yeah, and the simple forge that I did out of like an ammo can, I've got 2 ammo cans, those have quenching oils in them. The ammo can, forge was pretty simple, and I just used a MAP gas torch. That worked pretty well, especially if you're doing stock removal. That thing worked perfect. If you want to get into forging and you don't want to buy a whole forge, you can easily get just random bricks that you have laying around, some coals, and light them up. A little bit of airflow from a blow dryer with some little ducting or whatever, and boom, you got yourself a coal forge. Ourselves a banana. One banana, your banana. Okay. So now what I'm going to end up doing on this next heat is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flatten the spine out one more time. I'll take that arch out of it, flatten that out, because whenever I come in and I start using the flat side of my rounding hammer to work on these bevels, it's going to take and put that arch right back into it. Let's see here. Tonto knife, has some piece of steel, Bondo, 2x4, the handle. There you go. Campfire, finger point at it. Yeah. Again, my first forge was literally one that I made in an ammo can with some fire bricks. And now, my forges that I have right here, all it is a whole bunch of fire bricks with the frame that I welded up for it. And of course, burners that you can get off of Amazon. Nothing fancy here. I say that, a lot of people would be like, you got all kinds of fancy stuff in there. But really, I really don't. It's a simple shop, and I love it that way. So go ahead and take that arch back out of the spine. Alright, so now we're flat again. Now we can go ahead and start pinching the bevels with the flat side of the rounding hammer. So as of right now, our blade itself is about just over 16 inches, because right now our forge internal is 18 inches. What's up, Smile More? Worry Less, thank you for subbing. So the blade length itself is almost the full length of my 18-inch forge. So I think that's going to be good. If I go too much longer on the blade, it's going to make it a pain in the butt to heat treat. So I like the fact that the blade is the length that it is right now. We're going to get it back up to temp, and we'll go ahead and start forging in those bevels. What's up, Mom? Just in case you didn't know, my mom's name is Janet Jackson, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I have a lot of these. So this is a really big ammo can right here, and I got another ammo can on top of it. There's quenchants in both of these, so quenching oils in both of those. But I have a lot of these bigger ammo cans like this, We have some really good military surplus stores around where I live, so you can get stuff like that super easy, super cheap. Well, I'm glad to have you here, Smile. Go ahead and start working on these bevels. See, we start getting that curve back to it just by forging in the bevels. And again, to give you a reminder of what we're actually forging, it's over here on the dry erase board. That's what we're working on. Something along the lines of that. Now, I just drew this profile to give you an idea, but that's the goal. You know, a nice long, sleek tip, tapering handle. This way we have a nice, even balance. The handle itself isn't as long as the blade. My goal is, just like the last one that I made, so that whenever you're holding it with one finger at the ricasso, the weight is perfect 50-50 from the handle through the blade. Right now, we're working on getting the bevels nice and evened out. Yeah, nice and good to know when I try a bunch of railroad spikes. Yeah, I have an awesome mom. I have some awesome moms. Like, super awesome. A lot of the things that I do now, you know, you have some cool ladies like that in your life, and you get to do a bunch of cool stuff. Okay, we have the curve that I want on the blade. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up the spine. I'll typically save cleaning up the spine for after I do the bevels, because if I need to correct this and take some of that curve out of it, as I clean up the spine, it will by default drop the point down just a little bit. Here. What's up, Titan? Forge. It's leather work for me. I'll tell you right now, so some of the things that I'm working on right now is actually leather work. That's kind of one of those skills that I want to get better at, is doing leather work. There's a lot of people that do some awesome stuff. I am not there yet. I can make all kinds of knife stuff, but my leather work is like super rudimentary right now. So what I'm going to do on this next heat is I'm going to come in and I'm going to start cleaning up the bevels, cleaning up the spine, and getting everything to a uniform thickness and getting it to where it looks nice and planished and clean. And then we'll go through and start kind of fine-tuning some of the areas that might need to be fine-tuned. But as of right now, our bevels are forged down. So we just need to start cleaning up the transitions, going from the bevels up into the flats, and getting everything to where it looks nice and uniform. So typically what I'll do, like I was telling y'all earlier, I will forge the bevels from the halfway point down. That leaves that thickness up there in the spine and the flats. And I'll come in and I'll then blend those bevels that I forged up in going towards the spine and clean all that up as I go down. Some leather work. I've been doing it for 12 months, just throwing a few sheaths. Heck yeah. So for me, I've done tons of Kydex sheaths and I've done a few leather sheaths. I'm so picky that like some of my sheaths that look good to other people, I'm like, man, they look trash. I need to get so much better at it. I'm just, you're your own worst critic type deal. All right, time to clean it up. Switch hammers. Starting to get there. For the planishing phases, you do not want a bunch of heat in your blade. So you're going to see that I have it to where it's kind of gray looking on here. Now, of course, if I shut all the lights off, you would see that it's still hot. I mean, take one light off and turn this away. There, you can actually see it there now. But whenever you have all the lights that I have in here, it automatically makes everything look like it's colder than it is. I got a lot of people that ask me about that. Why are you forging it so cold? It's lighter. It's hotter than it looks. Just got into Kydex, but I've been doing leather work for years. I really like my sheaths. All right, Steve. Talk to you later. Again, I'm just wait until y'all see Steve's build. Y'all are going to be like, dang, dude. It's ridiculous. His Viking challenge is sick. Same thing with Matt Rich's. If y'all haven't seen Matt Rich's build, the way that he's doing his, I plan on making something similar to the way that he's doing his. It's some of my friends are doing some wicked cool stuff. It's ridiculous. So again, right now what we're working on is planishing, getting everything cleaned up, and getting it, because we've already made it all in line. We already put everything kind of where we want it to be. We're getting it all cleaned up, and we don't want it super hot during these phases, because the hotter you have it, every single hammer blow does way too much work. Especially when you're using a 5-pound hammer. Okay, we still got kind of a banana going on right here, but I'll get that straight whenever I decide to do that phase. But right now, we have a real nice blade profile that's got bevels forged into it. You know, right now it's got that banana curve, but I'll get that out of it. We got forged to a distal to the front. Got that nice arch to it like we have in the drawing. So that's looking real good. We'll go ahead and toss it back in there and then straighten up the blade just a little bit. And then we'll flip it around, get that tang nice and in line with the spine of the blade, and we'll have our profile with our bevels done. Did a really good Kydex sheath for his backpack knife. I've done a few crazy Kydex sheaths, and I've done a few like hybrid leather and Kydex sheaths. I've got some of those that I'm going to be doing here pretty soon as well, that I think are going to turn out. I think it's going to turn out really cool. So my goal for one of the Kydex hybrids that I'm doing, I'm going to be cutting the leather template out, and I'm going to be cutting out a piece of Kydex that would act as where the welt is, like where you typically have the welt where you stitch. Instead of that, I'm doing a Kydex, basically a Kydex ring around the whole entire sheath, and then you basically, whenever you're going to take and fold everything around, you heat up the Kydex and fold that with it so the Kydex keeps its form. Okay, so you can go through, you can stitch the whole entire thing if you don't want to do a double stitch or whatever, but you can get everything hooked up into the Kydex, and then whenever you fold it, what'll end up happening is the area of the sheath where the knife goes into it, that's going to be Kydex, so you get that click retention, but the main body of the sheath is leather, so you don't get any scratches. So the area where the blade primarily sits is leather, and the area that holds the retention is Kydex, and then the welt is all Kydex too. And you end up stitching through that. So once you fold it over, you can stitch it, or you can use eyelets. I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be a cool hybrid. I'm going to end up doing a video on it and all that stuff, but that way you get the benefit of both the leather not scratching your blades and the Kydex retention. And we're gonna see how it turns out. All right, our blade's warmed up. Just get it. Work on getting it straight and flat. Make sure our edge is centered. Our spine is nice and straight. Our edge is nice and straight. We go ahead, flip it over. Make sure our tank looks good. We just need to take a little twist out of it. And the cool thing is, once I go through and attack this with the 2x72, it's going to look absolutely amazing. And yeah, that will be a Shop Talk Tuesday build. I'm gonna film it, the whole sheath thing, just because I think it's gonna be really cool, and I think that once people see it, they're gonna go, yeah, that's really cool. And I'm kind of interested to see how it turns out. I just think it's gonna be a really cool hybrid, and it's gonna give you the best of both worlds, where you have the leather, you have the Kydex, you have the retention, you have the better of the non-scratching of the blade, all that stuff. Yeah, everybody in my neighborhood has a car with an exhaust on it. That's actually the person that just drove by is this 350Z that lives down the street. Every once in a while, you'll hear my friend Keegan. He's got a BMW drift car. It's a E36, I think is what it is, and it's just a M3, and he's got wide body on it. It's got big angle kit. It's got a 2JZ in it and all that stuff. It's funny because he's got a BMW with the 2JZ in it, and then he's got a 2013 Supra with a BMW engine in it, because the 2013 Supra might as well be a BMW. So it jokes about the fact that his Toyota Supra has a BMW engine and his BMW has a Toyota Supra engine. But he'll drive by and two-step in it, and his exhaust, the dump for the exhaust is straight out the hood. So whenever he does he's coming by and he's just letting it loose, he's shooting flames out of it and everything. It's very, very awesome. All right. A little bit of that arch to the handle. That's looking good. All right. I think we're looking pretty good as it sits. A little bit out of this side. And there you go. Nice and straight. We got our overall profile. Got the nice gradual curve all the way throughout the, let's see here. Bring y'all over here. I'm like attacking my little tripods with my lights on them. Okay. So, blade profile. Let's see if I can shoot. There. there is our curved blade, our long tapering handle. Of course, it is a slight bit longer than the one that's on the board there, but we are there you go, nice and straight. You can see it all the way through the end of the tang there. And we have the profile. We have our bevels forged in. So that's bevels forged, that's profile, that's everything that we were going for. A whole entire sword forged. Let's go ahead and check out our length and see what we got it drawn out to. So we are at 29¼ inches. So right at about 30. You know, is it a full 30? No. But I'll take 29¼ inches. Let's grab the other tongs. That right there will absolutely work for what we're going for. I think that right there is exactly what we wanted. Again, nice and straight. Forged profile, forged bevels, and 29¼ inches long forged sword on a live stream. There you go. I think it's awesome being able to do live streams like this and being able to let's see, what are y'all going on here with? You have a website where people can purchase the blades? Yep. Where they said, theriversexperience.com. This one right here, the whole point behind making it was because I had one of these that I'd already made, and I was showing it at Blade Show, and I wasn't exactly meaning to sell it. You know, whenever I was doing Blade Show the first day, it was underneath this big gun barrel that we had on the table. So it was kind of tucked away in the back. It was kind of one of those things, if I sell it, I sell it. If I don't, I don't. I get to bring it back home. But somebody offered what I was selling it for, and they were a person who sells to collectors, which is pretty cool. But they bought it, and now one of their collectors owns it, and I wanted to make another one, so I am making another version of it. Slightly different profile, just a little bit, but still with that same flair, and I'm going to be happy with this one. Will I sell this one? Probably. If I list it for an amount and someone decides to pay that amount, then cool, I'll sell it. It's the same thing for the World of Warcraft knife that I have on the website and a bunch of the other ones. But yeah. I think that being able to do some of the stuff like this and being able to do these in the live streams is absolutely awesome. I am going to go ahead and put this back in the forge and let it start annealing. Of course, I'll be annealing the blade tonight, and then tomorrow I'll come in and I'll anneal the tank and get that done, so we still have that. Being able to do these on the live streams is absolutely awesome because you actually get to see what you can forge in the amount of time. I mean, when we actually started forging to now, we did it in under 2 hours. So we forged a sword to profile with bevels and everything in right about 2 hours. So this is one of the reasons why I got more confident with being able to do Forged in Fire. So if they end up actually doing another season of that here in the States, I know they're working on the one in Australia right now. But if I get a chance to go on Forged in Fire, I've got a lot of confidence built in because I've I'm comfortable with forging something to profile and shape and all that stuff in a couple hours. So being able to have 3 hours to do it and being able to have access to a press, being able to have access to their power hammer and doing all that stuff, I think I would be perfectly fine. You know, especially whenever they have to make something smaller than a sword. I mean, I've forged like 2 swords on the live streams so far. So I feel like I could definitely do good on the show. We just got to get them to let me on it. And if I would have known originally, whenever I first sent my first email for going and actually trying to be on Forged in Fire, if I would have known that you're supposed to like super duper sell yourself, like add as many pictures as possible, links to videos, and all the stuff, and like super sell yourself, then I would have done that. But I was like, hey, my name is Eric Rivers. I do this thing over here. I do that thing over here. Here's a picture of what I do. I'd like to be on your show. Evidently, that's not enough stuff. You gotta like do all kinds of crap. Unless for some reason you're like super well known within the knife making community and they choose to invite you to be on there. And there's a few people that I know that they didn't submit anything. They were called and said, hey, can you come on the show? And they went on the show. So to the next couple of shows that I'm going to be doing, I might end up selling this one. I might have this one on the table for sale. So there's a chance that somebody's going to end up being able to get this. I'm only going to have it available at the actual shows. I'm not going to put it on my website. I've got another couple of bills that are only going to be available at the shows that you cannot get off my website. Just because for me, I really don't want to sell this one, but I really think that this right here is super awesome, and it would be really cool if somebody had this. But for right now, it's really cool that I have it. It's one of the best things that I've ever made. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever made. Look at that thing. Love the handle with the filed basket weave pattern all the way around it. That right there. Who needs one dagger when you can have 2 daggers in one? But yeah, I'll have that with me at the different shows that I'm doing. I will also have the hog splitter. I'm not putting this on my website, so I'm going to have this one for sale at the actual shows. I'm telling you right now, if you've ever split a 2x4 or a 2x6 or had to take out a tree, this right here will do that. Imagine how much fun you can have. Let's go ahead and turn this off and let it start doing its thing. I want to show y'all something. Okay? Hatchet, which you can work on trees, or you can take your ankle out, because this is the one that I cut my ankle with, or this. Just to give you an idea about how much steel this is. Would you rather cut a tree down with this or with this? And this is, here, I'll even put the hatchet in front of it so you can see I'm not making it to where this looks bigger than the other one. Shoot. Yeah, this is the hatchet. This is the one that went through my ankle. Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of stitches. So yeah, that one took out the ankle. It came down and slipped out of my hand. The handle, so basically what happened was it came down, it hit the handle, and the handle, boop, and just launched it. This whole entire top piece right here went into my ankle and sliced that bad boy open. I bled, passed out on the way to the hospital, all that type of stuff. A double-edged sword can be good and bad. Make a quadruple-edged sword. Yeah. And you know, I've cut myself with it whenever I was swinging it at things. But yeah, that right there, I'm gonna have that at the at the tables, and I'm gonna have it for sale there. Also, one of my favorite things that I've made. It just looks menacing. This is the screensaver on my computer. This is the screensaver. Yeah. But yeah, I haven't cut myself with this one yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it down. But yeah, I'm gonna have a couple of these builds. I'm gonna have a few things that y'all haven't seen on the channel at the tables as well, because I've got a few projects that I've done in the background that haven't been filmed. Some of them are some of my Damascus builds. I do have a few Damascus builds I'm gonna be doing on the channel where y'all are gonna get to see me forge them and do all of that stuff. So y'all will have that. And then of course, we've got the Viking challenge that I'm working on. We got the smaller Viking one. The one that I'm going to be working on this weekend is one of my, well, I'll show you, because you're going to get to see what it looks like now versus what it's going to look like on Tuesday. So I'm finally going to start working on this one. This is the one that has the 3/8 of an inch thick ricasso area. It'll have a distal and all that stuff. But this is going to be what we're working on for Shop Talk Tuesday. So y'all will get to see this build, and you're going to get to see it go from this to what it's going to be in the Shop Talk Tuesday episode. So I'll be working on that tomorrow and Monday. And then we're going to go from this to a few other builds and things like that. This one should be done by next Tuesday. So this Shop Talk Tuesday and next Shop Talk Tuesday should be a 2-part series going from this to a complete knife, which would be pretty nice. And then this is going to be really cool looking whenever we actually grind it and do all the stuff, because of all the transition lines are going to be really sick. And hopefully y'all are excited about that. We've got that we're going to be doing. One of the other couple of builds that we're going to be doing is the 2 hammers, the Harbor Freight hammers, taking those and turning them into a cross peen, straight peen, and a rounding hammer, so people can see what those look like if you have to make those yourself. I'm going to have a video for that. And then I'm going to have a video for the leather Kydex hybrid sheath. So there's a lot of stuff for y'all to check out. And then, of course, we're doing a live stream every Saturday. And we had last Saturday, I was at a show, didn't do that. But next Saturday, we're going to be forging what's most likely going to be a kukri. And then the live stream after that, don't know what we're going to be forging, but we're going to be forging something. And then the live stream after that, same thing. So we'll see how this goes. Let's see what you say here. Occasionally have little issues where I'm planishing at the end. I was wondering, it was close up of your steel when you get the planishing all done. Yeah, so I can show you this. This one right here, this isn't like super crazy planished. You can still see some of the hammer marks in that. The things that I focus on is what's going to be the spine. Is that nice and straight? Same thing for all of this. And the inside and the edge. Do I have a uniform thickness all the way throughout the edge? That's what I'm looking for. Of course, this one right here is one that's going to have a lot of grinding done to it. If you go to, let's say, I'll show you one that doesn't have any grinding on the actual flats. So this right here, this is one that this is what it looked like, all of this stuff after planishing. Of course, minus the bevels. But again, my goal is to have a nice, straight, crisp, flats, and for everything to be uniform in thickness as we go down, even through something like this with the taper tang, so that I don't have to do a whole bunch of work to it. But you're still going to see some of these hammer marks right here. And the whole point behind me doing some of those is I want the nice transition lines between the brute to forge finish and the actual nice clean bevels. I want those transition lines into that. I think it looks really cool. Just like this right here, where you have the forged texture going into it. Of course, this side right here, I need to clean this, but where you have that forged texture just kind of going throughout the blade. Of course, this one's a full integral knife. This has integral handle, all of that. But especially whenever you're coming in and you're cleaning up areas like this right here. So this is definitely cool. Let's see here. Just happen to have 2 Harbor Freight hammers sitting in my box. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, and one of the things that I got, let's see here. Got this in the mail today. My little house-made slash gnome forge hammer. That's pretty cool. Little dog head. It's a pretty light hammer. I'm going to use it for, I don't know, stuff, but stuff. And then y'all are going to get to see me using this in one of the videos coming up soon. That is going to be that's a beast of a hammer right there. Boop. Talk about pinching the hell out of some steel. You know, 5-pound cross peen. Whew. That is a very big hammer. It's transition into hippie hairstyles. So you should get yours pretty quick, because it told me that I was getting, like, it said, hey, your hammer's packaged up. And then today it said, hey, your hammer's on the way. I got the hammer today. So you should be getting yours very soon if you ordered one. So it's pretty cool. But guys, what do y'all think? Y'all think we did a good job forging this puppy out? Let's close this, close the forge off just a little bit more. There we go. Let that cool down slowly. So I think we did fun. I think we had a blast forging with the power hammer. If y'all didn't get to see the actual power hammer in use, just start the live stream over again. We did the first hour of forging with the power hammer, so you get to see that in action. And then of course we did the second hour with hammer and anvil, and kind of refined everything, because the goal for the power hammer was to get the steel moved into the directions that we needed it to go without having to sit there and hammer the whole entire time. So get the steel moved to its rough profile, and then clean everything up with the hammer and anvil, get everything nice and smooth, get the profile where we want it, get all the transitions where we want it, all that stuff looking really good. That's the goal there. I don't even know how to fix a cross-clawed cow. I don't know how to fix that. That's one of them Chip Carlisle jokes. So I think that this is going to be a fun process, being able to have the power hammer here, being able to start the forging with that in our live streams, and getting everything just going way quicker than me having to hand hammer all the stuff. I will tell you, the power hammer doesn't answer all the questions that you know, it doesn't fill all the needs of forging. It helps get the things to the areas quicker, and then you still have to use a hammer and anvil. It's the same thing for people who use presses. You still have to use a hammer and anvil to get everything actually fine-tuned. The power hammer just helps you get that initial material moved to the spots that it needs to get to, and then you still got to use the good old arm power hammer and get everything put where it needs to be. So It's not like I'm going to switch to just using the power hammer for everything. I'm still going to be using hammer and anvil for so much stuff because I can really just swing a hammer for as long as I want, and I absolutely love that aspect of it. But this right here is how you fine tune stuff. Now, of course, if you want to use a lighter hammer, you can really fine tune with that. I use a very big 5-pound hammer to do everything that I use, and it's really worth it to get everything where you need to be. I remember, so whenever I initially did this, when I initially forged this profile, which is a long blade, I did all of that with a like 2.5-pound hammer. So whenever I initially did all of this and I had to forge the bevel or forge the profile of this and do all that stuff, that was with a hammer that was half the weight. And what you would realize is whenever you're using a 2.5-pound hammer, you can do a lot of stuff with it. But whenever you transition up to a 5-pound hammer and you realize how much steel you can move so much faster, you'll go, man, this really isn't wearing me out at all. Because with a 2.5-pound hammer, it might take 5 heats or 6 heats to do what you can do in 2 heats with a 5-pound hammer. So you have to swing it way less. Is it heavier? Sure. But if you only have to swing it a third of the times, in the end, you're doing more work with this and saving your arm more. And if you can't do a 5-pound, just do a 4-pound. Because the difference between a 2.5-pound and a 4-pound is pretty drastic. And whenever I initially forged that sword right there, it took me like 6.5 hours to forge that double-bladed dagger. It took me like 6.5 hours. We just forged a sword that's the same length as that, with bevels and everything, in under 2 hours. Absolutely worth it to have. Now, of course, we use the power hammer for part of it, but I could have easily done that whole entire sword in 2.5, 3 hours without the power hammer. If any cow is going to have claws, it's going to be Chip's cow. But yeah, I'm happy with what we were able to get done, and my neighbors didn't come over here and file any complaints. I had no cops coming over here for noise ordinance or anything like that. I mean, to be fair, with the amount of people that have crazy exhausts in my neighborhood, my power hammer is probably not anywhere near the loudest thing that happens on a daily basis over here. I've got a guy that lives right down the street that has this crazy, like, in mine as well. I don't know how it's street legal, but he's got this car that has like a 525 engine in it. It's a huge, big block, big supercharger, all that stuff on it. And whenever he drives, it shakes like your whole entire house. It's way louder than my power hammer. And nobody says anything about it. People are just like, yeah, that's badass. So that's the neighborhood I live in. Plus, me cold starting my car, my Porsche, it is 50 times louder than my power hammer. And I start that in the morning at like 6:30, 7 a.m. But guys, I think that is the end of this one. We got everything forged. We did everything we were needed to do. I think we can go ahead and call it here so that I'm not just sitting here rambling. We got the blade annealing in the forge right now. That way we can go ahead and put it back in a relaxed state. Anytime you go through and you forge stuff and you move the steel a lot, you want to do an annealing step. After that, it's a must. It lets it get back into a relaxed state. It takes a lot of that abuse that you just put into it out of it and puts the steel in a state where it can, again, just be relaxed. And I always do this, and then I'll still do a normalizing cycle before I do the heat treat process, which is slightly different than an annealing step. Annealing, you heat it up, let it cool slowly inside the forge or in vermiculite. The normalizing step, you heat it up again 1600 degrees, you let it cool outside of the forge in still air, not a whole bunch of fans blowing or in a windy area, and it cools slow, but not as slow as if it was in the forge. And you still want to do both those steps, and you want to do your grade refinement cycles just because you want good blades. But guys, that's the end of this one. Thank you all for coming by. Thank y'all for hanging out with me, and thank y'all for watching me forge a sword. Hopefully y'all had fun. Guys, y'all have an amazing day. Have an amazing weekend. Have an amazing night. Y'all stay safe out there. I'll catch y'all in the next one, okay? See y'all.